Last year, I spoke to 50 people as part of a lockdown project. The goal was very simple. I wanted to know why they became lifelong learners. Now, some of you might have heard of this term, and some of you might have not. For your information, lifelong learners are people who undertake ongoing, voluntary, and continuous pursuit of knowledge. Basically, these are people who is always learning about something, no matter what age they're at. So as I spent time speaking to these people, I met some really interesting characters, some really interesting individuals. There was a man who began his PhD at the tender age of 50, right after retirement. There was another person who was an engineer 10 years into his career, suddenly decided that he wants to go back to school and undertake an undergraduate degree in law, purely out of interest, purely out of curiosity. And there was also another person who received a full scholarship to study engineering in the USA and rejected that scholarship because he wanted to get a certificate in IT, go straight into the working world, and learn on the job. There was also another person who was working in a factory in Bintulu while completing his PhD at a university based out of Ipoh. Now, as I was speaking to all of these people, I make it easy for them. I asked 3 questions. Number 1, why did you become a lifelong learner? What were your motivations? What drove you? And what kept you going? What were the challenges that you faced? What were the hurdles that you faced in doing all of this? And lastly, what kept you going? So, as I spent time speaking with all of these lifelong learners, I began to see trends that were similar across of them. Characteristics, traits, and things that were consistently the same across this group of 50 people. So here they are, some of the findings that I found from that conversation. Lifelong learners don't have time. They make time. You see, the people I spoke to were busy working in corporate. Some of them were raising their families well into their midlives, and some of them were running businesses. So as you could imagine, their schedules were already packed back to back with tasks that they need to complete. Regardless of this challenge they have in life, they chose to study in the evenings, on the weekends, or even lunchtime for some of them. So I noticed that these people, they did not have time to begin with. Time wasn't a luxury, but they took time to learn as a lifelong learner. Not all lifelong learners were good students. Although these people took time to undertake study while they were working, they were not all inherently good students when they were in school or in college. Some of them were just average. Some of them were not best students or valedictorians or all of the plaudits that you would have expected from somebody who could not stop learning. But later in life, sometime at the point of working, by accident, they discovered a subject that they were passionate with. So not all lifelong learners were good students. Number 3, which is the central theme of my talk today, lifelong learning is a competitive advantage. All of the lifelong learners whom I spoke to last year indicated that by spending time learning on top of what they were already doing, it has helped them to perform better at work and perform better in their businesses. Those who undertake MBAs as a part-time study were able to apply immediately when they go back to the office. Whatever they learn on Sunday, they apply it back on Monday. Those who undertook research PhDs while working were able to improve in terms of the amount of analysis, the depth of analysis that they do in the workplace, and improve decision making, improve problem solving. So lifelong learning is a competitive advantage. Why am I so passionate about this subject? It is because I myself is a lifelong learner. When I was in university, at the age of some of the Gen Zers today, I was not a good student. I studied engineering and I struggled. And on graduation day, my transcript read 2.7 GPA. On the day of my graduation, I said to myself, I will never set foot in a classroom again. I will never touch a textbook ever again. And off I went to start working. 5 years into working, however, I began to feel a bit bored. I was stuck in the monotony of life, of the 9-to-5 routine of everyday life. I wanted to break that monotony, and I decided that the best way to do that is to face my biggest challenge, going back to school. So at the tender age of 32, I decided that I wanted to do an MBA as a part-time student while still working. Studying as an adult is definitely different. I was a bit more matured, and things in the classroom made a bit more sense. So I was able to contextualize what was going on in the classroom. I was able to have better conversations with the lecturers and so with my classmates. And although I was a bit older in the class, I had more fun. So on graduation day of my MBA, I fortunately made it. I decided that I wanted to pursue another postgraduate program. So off I went to do another master's, and today I'm a doctorate student while still working. So which is why I'm so passionate about this subject of lifelong learning. And I believe strongly, if I could do it, anybody in this room can do it. If that 2.7 GPA student who fortunately graduate could go all the way to become a PhD student, I believe anybody can do it. Now, how do we do it? How do we discover the lifelong learner in us? Number one, as much as I've been giving examples on people who did their masters or PhDs or all of that, I would like to stress that lifelong learning does not have to be formal. The lockdown experience have taught us that YouTube is a fantastic teacher. A lot of us have discovered that we are actually great chefs when it comes to cooking from the tutorial videos that we've learned. I've been trying that myself. You can ask my kids, but they might not agree that I'm a good chef, but it's edible, right? Doesn't have to be formal. Some people have discovered that they are painters, that they can do cross-stitching just by learning. So it doesn't have to be formal. Making mistakes is a great way to learn. When I go to campuses, one of the big questions that I get from students is what should I look for in an employer? I always tell them, look for organizations, if you can, that celebrate failure, organizations that celebrate mistakes. Not too often, but the ones that allow you to learn from the mistakes. And this doesn't have to be in the working setting. I'm sure in the exams that you've done, in the projects that you've completed as students, you have learned valuable lessons from the mistakes that you've done. And those are the ones that stick better with all of us, at work, in family, and in life. So making mistakes is a great way to learn as well. What needs to be there is the mindset, the growth mindset of a lifelong learner. The third one, the best way to learn is to teach. I found out that I know about the things that I thought I knew more when I'm teaching about the subject. And I believe each one of us in this room has a particular area that we are a master at. So what I implore Gen Zers today to do is go out there and share your knowledge. You would be surprised to learn that in the process of sharing knowledge, you are gaining knowledge. So I hope, from the examples that I've given today, we all know that lifelong learners exist within each and every one of us. I know not everyone is keen in going to the classroom. Not everyone is keen to go through exams. I dreaded the same thing when I was a Gen Zers once upon a time. I don't think the term was already there at the time. But I discovered later in life that learning can be fun, learning can be meaningful, and learning can be a lifelong journey. So my last request for Gen Zs, as you take the step out of the campus of this university or any institution out there, is to stay curious, be empathy to others. Curiosity helps you to be better at what you do, and empathy, more importantly, helps you to build meaningful relationship with others. So as you walk out of this classroom, or as you walk out of these campuses as graduates, the class might have ended, the learning never does. Thank you very much.